Welcome. Our invocation this morning is by Arlene Surwa, who I don't see. Okay. The room is so full, I can't tell who's here and who's not. This is a good problem to have. We're bursting at the seams.
Thank you, President Katie. Good afternoon. Almighty God, please bless our food, bless our Rotarians, those here, those who are sick, and all those who have died. Today, we especially pray for law enforcement officers, especially Supervisory Special Agent Inman. Protect them from harm in the performance of their duty to stop crime. We pray, help them to keep our homes, our streets, and our country safe. We commend them to your loving care because their duty is dangerous. Grant that at the end of the day, they are safely united with their families. Amen.
Thank you. And our song leader today is Stu Lipoff. Because you're a good sport.
Thank you, President Katie, and good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. My pathway to assuming song leader duty today is a little bit indirect and a little bit of reluctance, but I'm not going to go into details. But I did learn at an early age that I did not have the vocal talents of someone like Arsidra Kane. And I just want to tell you a little bit about that before the song. The year was at 1955 in Miss Barton's third grade class in the Samuel W. Pennepacker Elementary School. We were all gathered in the gym to rehearse God Bless America and perform the next day for a scheduled visit by the Philadelphia Superintendent of Schools. Singing our little hearts out, Miss Barton lined us up, walked down the line, placing her ear in front of each child's mouth. And when she got to me, she said, "Don't sing, just move your lips." So not even in the shower have I attempted to sing that song since then. But now, 68 years later, I'm ready to disregard her command with a little bit of your help. So let me speak the prologue to Irving Berlin's Love Letter to America, and then we can move to the song. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night, bright the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Take that, Miss Barton.
You know what, Stu? I had a similar experience in the 6th grade and I never got over it either. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance a little nugget of history after Stu's song. We had a longtime member named Wing Fong, and he spoke broken English. He grew up in this country, we loved him. And during Rob Moore's year as president, he got him to sing the birthday song every month. And it was very unique. And it became a real tradition and it was a lot of fun. So that's it. If we can't have fun, forget about it. Our Sergeant at Arms today is Jim Hunt.
Hello, Madam President.
I believe that we have an international visitor today.
No international? No?
Sean had a flag for us. Okay. Do we have visiting Rotarians today?
Aha, I think we do.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Harris, and I am visiting from the Richmond Rotary in California in the Bay Area. And I've been a Rotarian for almost a year now. I think in April it'll be a year, and I am the program chair of my Rotary.
Nice.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Is my understanding you might have a flag for our president or no? You don't. We have one for you. There you go. Okay. There you go.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, any other visitors?
Do we have guests of Rotarians today?
Just one down there. This is going to be easy.
Hello, everybody. My guest today is a friend from and since junior high school, Kathy Dean. She's been here before. She lives in Northern California and managed to float her way through Las Vegas. So welcome, Kathy.
Welcome indeed. Any other guests of Rotarians? No?
Melanie has a guest of the club.
Okay.
2 guests of the club.
3.
Good.
But a very exciting guest of the club. Prodigal son has returned. Rodney Tucker is joining us back again. And then he brought a guest, so I'll have him introduce his.
Thank you. I've learned that the punishment for being a prodigal son is you get to be the 25 club twice. So you won't see me for a couple of years. This is my friend Liz. She moved here a little over a year ago from the Bay Area, and she's interested in the possibility of joining us and is involved in the home remodeling business.
Good. Welcome. Welcome back.
And then we also have Virginia, who is a guest of Larry, and he's going to announce her.
Thank you, Melanie. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome Virginia Knudsen here, a prospective member of the club, but I've known Virginia for a while now, and she is a leader here in Las Vegas as the CEO and founder of the Board Community, mastermind groups, and executive leadership.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mel.
Anybody else? Okay. I'd like to take a moment and introduce our head table today. Our speaker, Ben Inman, will be more fully introduced in a few minutes by Sarah Thornton, who is also at the head table with her husband, Terrence, and past President Karen Wisenhunt and past President Jim Hunt. Okay, take a picture real quick. Thanks, Jim. Okay, announcements today. Don Holland is going to make the announcement for the centennial.
Go.
There he is.
Good afternoon. Has anybody ever heard of Staff Sergeant David Bellavia? David Bellavia is the only living Medal of Honor recipient from the Iraq War. I'm going to talk real briefly about media and promotion of the centennial, but I have a story to tell. David Bellavia came here last summer, and like I said, the only living Medal of Honor recipient from the Iraq War. We tried to get publicity through the Review Journal, through local TV, through local radio, and we were welcomed with silence. There are a lot of people who would be interested in hearing him talk, but they didn't know about it because the local media gave us nothing. So we have a wonderful occasion coming up, the centennial. And my fear is that local media might not be very interested. So we need a workaround, and everybody in this room is part of the workaround. We need you to go to social media and tell the story of Rotary and tell the story of the centennial. Last week, there were flyers given out. If anybody is interested in shooting a short video, I'm talking 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute, I will shoot it. I have a tripod in my car. I will shoot it. You can do it at home. You can email it to lvrotarysocial@gmail.com. And just tell the story of Rotary. Why are you a Rotarian? And put in a little plug for the centennial coming up. And it doesn't take a lot, but my fear is if we are planning to rely on local TV, local radio, local newspaper, we're not going to be able to tell our story. So that's my centennial moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
That was brilliant, Don. Thank you. David Jones.
David.
There he is.
David. Where is he? Right there. Okay.
Okay, so the boo that I got was from Austin because he's taken over all of the AV stuff. So yay, I'm grateful for that. So 25 Club, we had our first 2023 educational social last Thursday night at Tony and Jerry's home. Jerry was still, did he ever get home? Okay, he did. He was on an airplane, and so he never got there. But we had a great educational. We had actually almost as many regular members as we did 25 Club members. So if you are new, you are automatically in the 25 Club. So we want to encourage you to continue on with that. We'll have another one next month. And with that, we're going to focus a little bit more again on our history and the heritage that our club has. Additionally, I want to mention there should be going around. Jim Tucker has the Super Bowl board, $50 a ticket, $2,500 in prize. I think there's 100 spaces that are on there. 70 of them, as of my last little look, are sold. So if you want to get in there, you need to get in there today, and pretty soon it'll be all. Yeah. Has anybody not seen it? Okay, we'll bring it over there. I'll bring it over there in a second. And then the last thing again, please save the date for April 1st for the Centennial Dinner. We are still trying to sell books, or still trying to sell the books that are coming up, as well as sponsorships. So please make note of that. And up through February 1st, you can get discount tickets. I would recommend that everybody buy them now so that they're at a discounted price. That's it, Madam Katie.
Thank you, David. Renee Gamero.
Ah, nice and close.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to announce that RILA, again, is March 25th and March 23rd to 25th. We are still looking for two types of people. First, attendees, 10th graders and 11th graders, who will be able to take part in this fabulous, life-changing experience, as well as we need Rotarians to go up the mountain and be facilitators. So far, we have Mike Williams, we have Bill Houghton, myself that are going up. I'd like to make it at least 3 more that are going to go up the mountain to be facilitators for this wonderful event. And if you remember, there are several past attendees, facilitators sitting at your tables now. So if you ask around, you have some interest, chances are you're sitting next to or close to someone who can give you a firsthand experience of what a life-changing experience this is for us as well as the students themselves. Secondary to that, we also have a speech competition coming up February 16th. And mind you, I was a good student growing up. And because of that, I had a lot of exchanges with different service organizations, Rotary and other clubs that we won't ever mention. But some of those other clubs had speech competitions, and I participated in those speech competitions, and I remember them to this day. And I say that because there are high schoolers in your life that, if they give a speech, will be forever linked with the mission of Rotary, and will have that. And when they become adults and a Rotarian talks to them, chances are they'll be even more interested in having a future with Rotary. So that's a speech competition February 16th, as well as the music competition February 23rd. So if a high school in your life, please let us know. We'd love to sign them up and help change their lives. RILA, March 23rd to 25th.
And that really is an inspirational experience for the
Renee.
counselors as well as the students.
One of the best descriptions of why it's important to get involved with that organization. as a high school student, I was in a few conferences like that myself. And it really changed my life. I mean, realizing that there are adults that care about whether you have an interest in vocations. And then as an adult, going back and seeing some of these young people will really inspire you how bright they are and how engaged they are. So if you're a newer member and you haven't gone to RILA, make sure you sign up for that. It's a great weekend.
Thanks. Melanie, we have a new member induction coming up.
Yep.
Orientation.
Yes, new member orientation. It's where the new members and the sponsors get together to learn about Rotary and getting orientated. But anybody's welcome to come, and it does help with the orientation, giving different perspectives from different members. So if you're able to come, then come. It's February 7th at 6 p.m. at my dad's house in TPC Summerlin. And one of these days, there won't be that house anymore. So if you want to see it, then maybe this is your last chance.
Oh, that's sad.
I'm going to find out who the new owner is and kind of get friends with them anyway, so we can still go there.
We're going to have to find a new party house.
And we do have a sign-up sheet in the green book, so please sign that if you're coming.
Well, thanks, Melanie. Marie Walsh.
Marie.
Thank you, President Katie. I just want you all to know that Nevada Reading Week for the schools is coming up. It's going to be February 27th through March the 3rd. You'll be getting emails from the schools asking you to participate. It's a wonderful thing. It's really a lot of fun. And this year, all our participants are going to be able to go into the school to read in the schools. So it's a lot of fun. Look for the email. If you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. Please support the schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
Thank you, Marie.
Tony Kern and I last weekend had the pleasure of attending President's Advance, which is a meeting of all the presidents from the district in Southern Nevada and Southern California. And there was a lot of information and a lot of takeaway. The best thing I took away from that meeting is how strong we are and how respected we are and what an example we are to the other clubs in the district. And it's because of all of you. Thank you. There was nobody complaining that their room wasn't big enough to hold all the members that came to the meetings. So, and I have a plea to the club. You've heard a rumor that we're having a celebration on April 1st. A little bit of history. In somewhere around 1960, Helen Willis, who was the wife of past President Vern Willis, designed a curtain. And at that point in time, we always met in one of the showrooms on the strip. And we had a curtain, a full-size regular showroom curtain. And it was covered with banners like, this is a tiny model of what we had. That curtain is in storage at UNLV in special collections. And I would love to be able to have that at the celebration. We have a space for it in the Fifth Street School. But the problem with that curtain was it took a professional crew, stage crew, to handle that thing. And this room is so full of expertise and hidden talents that I'm hoping that somebody has, I heard that. Somebody has an idea, some expertise, and Steve Casey is flat on his back in Park City, having back surgery tomorrow. And he called me this morning and said, you know, we ought to be able to do that. And I said, you know, you're reading my mind. So if anybody has any ideas how we can get that thing moved and hung, I would be so grateful if you would let me know. And maybe some of us could brainstorm. So put that in the back of your mind and let me know, please. Thank you. Mike Kudamat, we have Paul Harris presentations.
Thank you, Katie. I just want to remind everybody again that we have a Paul Harris matching program going on. So those who haven't availed of this, it's still available. We still got some points. For January, we have a new Paul Harris Fellow recipient. Could we call him our past president, Mr. Jim Hunt? This is Jim Hunt's +5. There you go, sir. Thank you very much. You gotta take a picture.
Thanks. I'd like to take a minute to thank everybody that helped with the meeting today. John Williams and Kathy Mahan for setting up. Debbie Howard and Larry Kahn for being greeters. Marie selling tickets. Our scribe, Jason Federico. Our photographer, past President Jim Tucker. Our AV team, our vocal and new member, Austin Wyrick. And cleanup today, Barbara Castro and Larry Goldstein. So thank you all for your help. And we have a few minutes so you can enjoy some fellowship before our speakers introduced. Thank you. We have a really, well, before I get into that, I knew that somebody in this room would be able to help. And so far, I've had 3 great ideas. So I'm so excited that we'll get that flag out. You'll be amazed when you see it. We have a great speaker today, so I want to get the drawings done so we can hear what he has to say. Our pot today, before the contributions from today, was $2,872. The ticket to draw for the Joker is 465-2775. And I hear crickets. You have it? Who's got it? Come on up. 465-2775. Good. Come on up. Aren't you glad you came today?
Yes, of course. For the lucky card. Oh,
Hey. There you go.
thank you.
And Sean will have the check for the $50.
Thank you very much.
You want to tear the card up? Very good. Thank you. You can have it. Souvenir. Okay. And for $50 in Lowry bucks, the ticket is 465-3039. Bob Warner. There you go. Okay. There you go. Okay. And the third ticket that we have is for a ticket to the Centennial Gala. This was donated by Tom Thomas. The number is 465-3015. Karen, woohoo. Very good. Congratulations, and we will put you on the list for the ticket. And now I'd like to have Sarah Thornton come up and introduce our speaker today, Ben Inman.
Very much. Thank you, President Katie. I am so excited to introduce our speaker today. I think most of you have been to my neighborhood, but unless you go to the 25 Club meeting in March, you won't have gone to my house. But in Glenmere, behind the Summerlin Costco, where Jim Cole lives, and you've been to his house, and I think Randy lives, and you've probably been to his house. Well, at the bottom of Jim Street in the poor side of the neighborhood, they're all the same, is my neighbor, and he is the celebrity of our area. Of course, he has made our neighborhood so much better since he moved to Glenmere. And let me tell you a little bit about him. So Ben, who you can see in the program with a PR person's nightmare photo, he said he's not allowed to smile. Don't do that to a PR person. So Ben began his law enforcement career as a police officer with the Virginia Port Authority Police Department, and then became a sergeant and lieutenant. He joined the FBI and was assigned to the San Diego field office. So he's lived in San Diego, where he was assigned to the Organized Crime and Drug Enforcement Task Force, which is probably not as exciting as here in Las Vegas, we hope. Well, we hope not, maybe. He was promoted to a supervisory special agent in the Criminal Investigations Division in 2016. He became the unit chief of the high-tech organized crime unit in DC, right? In 2020. And he is currently the supervisory special agent over the FBI's Southern Nevada Transitional Organized Crime Task Force here in Las Vegas. And this nosy PR person has him all kinds of stuff that he will never answer, but I know he's going to give us a lot of great information today. So please help me welcome Ben Inman. They will tell you, hold the mic up for someone.
Yes, I'm smiling. Yes, just not in photos. Very much appreciate the invitation to speak with all of you. I've been in Las Vegas for a little over a year and a half. I've made my way from Norfolk, Virginia to San Diego, back to the East Coast. And then when looking for my next career opportunity, I'd always enjoyed and had a passion for organized crime, especially starting off in San Diego. So the rich history in Las Vegas definitely led me to applying for the job here, and I was lucky enough to get it. So I understand the centennial is coming up in 1923. I believe the first meeting was held at a chocolate shop, which is now where the Golden Nugget resides. Funny coincidence, the first time I actually came to Vegas, I stayed at the Golden Nugget for a meeting roughly 17 years ago. And that was actually the last time I had been to Vegas before moving back out here for my current job. This is what I always thought about Las Vegas was the gambling and the casinos and raking in the money from or falling asleep at the table. But really, as Las Vegas has transitioned, it's more it's become a family oriented, the shows and things like that, which is due large in part from organized crime. And so in 1931, obviously, I'm sure there's a significant number of you who are from Las Vegas and are very steeped in traditions of organized crime here. But really, the legalization of gambling led to opportunities for organized crime to embed themselves within the hotel and casino industry and to make a significant amount of money. So the casino operators wanted to expand. They didn't have the funds to do it. Organized crime groups, specifically La Cosa Nostra or the Mafia, they had plenty of money, but didn't know how to operate a casino. So it was a perfect match in the beginning. Bugsy Siegel, of course, the Flamingo Hotel was the most well-known foray into the casino industry for organized crime. But they lost a significant amount of money in the first 65 days it was open. To date, there's never really been a full account of how much money was siphoned off from that, and subsequently, yes, thank you. Sorry. He was subsequently murdered in 1947. So, of course, historically, the Keep Our Committee had intrinsically linked organized crime with Las Vegas and the casinos. And then with the corporatization of the casinos, it really took away a significant opportunity for organized crime groups operating in Vegas to make money. Of course, and Las Vegas was considered an open city. So it wasn't run by any one organized crime group or family. All the families had representation and ties with the different casinos. So Chicago again, the Riviera, the Dunes, Kansas City, the Genovese, New York, Chicago LCN at the Tropicana, Cleveland LCN at Stardust, St. Louis and Detroit families. Then the original Caesars was Chicago. So for the FBI, we call it transnational organized crime. It's simply because of the evolution over time with technology and advancements. Organized crime groups operate on every continent. Their span and reach is extremely impressive. But really, in order to kind of talk about transnational organized crime, you have to break up kind of the different subsets of the groups based on regions or ethnic backgrounds. So, of course, we've already talked on LCN, but we also talked briefly about Balkan, Eurasian, Asian, African, Middle Eastern. Then there's also major theft organized crime groups that really don't have any specific affiliation ethnically or geographically. But then what's become exceptionally prevalent nowadays is high-tech organized crime. So LCN, they really were looking, and still do, look to embed themselves in legitimate businesses to wash or launder their proceeds and to siphon money from those. Organized crime is a business. They want to make money, but they do so through illegal means. But they also have to disguise their illegitimate activity with legitimate activity. So in terms of Balkan organized crime, that's going to stem from the former Soviet Union countries, Armenia, Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, and the Stan countries. And there's a wide number of groups. Specifically, one of the most well-known is going to be the Theban laws or the Visakonia. These are not tied to specific ethnic groups. They primarily come from the Balkan region, but they swear an oath to the criminal life. So while they're in prison, they take a vow and are essentially voted in as a Theban law for criminal activity. And then, of course, what's well known in the news is the oligarchs with the fall of the Soviet Union and the perestroika took advantage of the collapse of the Soviet Union with capitalization and then combining that with the black market. And so all of these groups, and then as I make my way through. They all have basically something they specialize in, or a series of things that they use to make money. All of them conduct money laundering, which is to disguise their criminal activity, but it really goes the gamut. As we've moved into the high tech era, the big thing for businesses that can become victim to organized crime groups is really going to fall under like hacking. A lot of these sophisticated criminal groups, whether it's Balkan, Eurasian, Asian, they are very sophisticated. They employ hackers. They conduct a lot of business email compromise. And through that, they're not necessarily operating here in Las Vegas or in the United States. A lot of these organizations and enterprises operate overseas, but they have the ability to connect through obviously the internet and to exploit unseeming victims for large sums of money. As I talked about the Vorviziconia, you can see the area that they primarily originate from. Ethnic background is primarily Georgian, but a wide number of other countries. Really, the Vorviziconia in the United States was really sort of came to an end. Most of the Vorviziconia that were in the United States have either already been arrested. This was Razdan Shalaya. He was a thief-in-law or a Vor. He was arrested in Las Vegas in 2017 on RICO charges. So then so Asian criminal enterprises, there are Asian criminal enterprise presence in Las Vegas and Nevada, as well as all over the country. Vegas is no different than any large city. They tend to organize under ethnic groups, but are primarily the larger ones are going to be your triads, your tongs. We have Japanese Bora Yukodan, which is Yakuza, but they don't operate within the United States. They're pretty centralized to Japan. Then you have your non-traditional, which are based in Western countries. Those are legal or illegal residents that coalesce and form an organized crime group specifically to make money. So this is a most recent example of an Asian criminal enterprise that was operating in Las Vegas a few years back. This investigation spanned several years. They were doing everything from drug trafficking, weapons trafficking. They were growing marijuana, but were very prolific. They operated out of Las Vegas, but had ties all over the country, as well as overseas. For this case, there was roughly 90 subjects that were indicted and arrested. And the head of the organization was also arrested and sentenced as well. But they were dealing heavily in methamphetamine as well as fentanyl, which I'll talk about, which is a significant concern for both, obviously, Nevada, as well as the country as a whole. Be able to play this. So we talk about, I would talk about high-tech organized crime. This has become extremely prevalent over the last several years is the darknet market, darknet marketplaces. So you have your traditional World Wide Web. You go onto Google as a search engine. You want to look for, a tire shop. You type that in, it pops up. It takes you to a number of different sites. The darknet market is very darknet is very different. You have to have specialized web browsers and have to know where to be able to navigate. So this is an old marketplace, but think of it as the Amazon or eBay of drug market. So you can go into the darknet with a specialized software. You can scroll down. Here we have fentanyl. These are all the different vendors that are selling drugs online. They're doing it through the dark web to remain anonymous. They're not necessarily operating in the United States, and they're using postal and shipping to ship drugs to your home. This was an extreme concern, especially during the pandemic when people were on lockdown. They wanted to get drugs, but also couldn't go out to actually get them. So you saw a significant number of drug overdoses during the pandemic, and that was attributed to a lot of the darknet vendor sites that were selling drugs. The thing with these darknet marketplaces is the operators and these vendors a lot of the times make their own drugs. So the victims will go on, think they're purchasing a pharmaceutical grade pill for an addiction, and they end up getting counterfeit pills, oftentimes laced with fentanyl. These aren't chemists, they're not pharmacists. These are people with no background in any sort of chemical engineering or pharmaceuticals, mixing these in their basement, pressing them into pills, and then selling them to unsuspecting victims. Unfortunately, with fentanyl, definitely the impact in Nevada and all over the United States is it spans every socioeconomic background, every age group, from young teenagers up to people in their 60s and 70s. And from the organized crime perspective, the whole system is designed to be anonymous. You never meet the person you're buying drugs from. They never meet you. They have the prices listed. It's very similar to Amazon or eBay. After you make a purchase, you rate that vendor so other people know that you received your package, the quality was good. But the big thing is the caution that people use. Don't buy drugs online, obviously, is kind of the takeaway. But I have young kids and have known people that have kids who have overdosed from fentanyl, unfortunately. But it's really about educating the youth and then just people in general that these look like legitimate marketplaces. I mean, they're very well set up. They're very organized. They're very strict on ensuring packages are delivered. But in the end, these are criminal organizations that are operating these, and they really have no connection to you other than that monetary transaction. So there is definitely there's not a respect for the life on the other end for those people who are taking those drugs. So I talked about the Eastern Hemisphere organized crime, which was obviously historically in Las Vegas was the most traditional, but really the problem as a whole is also seen on what we call the Western Hemisphere side. So that's going to be your Mexico, your South America, based organizations. When I first started in the FBI, I worked in San Diego. I spent 4 years working drug cartels on the southern border. So even these organizations like the Eastern transnational organized crime groups have diversified. They no longer just do drug trafficking. However, that is a primary revenue generator for them. But they also do white collar fraud. They do kidnappings, extortions for money. And they also do what they call virtual kidnappings, where they troll social media sites, identify someone that may be traveling from their social media, and then they'll make contact with the victim's family, say that they've been kidnapped, they have them taken hostage, and if you pay them $1,000, they'll release them. But they're very good. It's social engineering, and a lot of times these occur that they're subjects that are actually committing it are actually operating out of a prison overseas. So these are just some pictures of large drug seizures, but in terms of concealing drugs, if it has a void and they can exploit it, they will hide drugs to transport into the US. For Las Vegas, obviously I started in San Diego, which is the largest port of entry in the country and actually has the most people coming in and out in the world. So it's a very different environment in San Diego than it is in Las Vegas. So San Diego, most of the drugs that came through San Diego were not destined for San Diego. It was a transportation hub. So once it came into the United States, it was then shipped out to like the large cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, Las Vegas. Las Vegas is unique in that it has both. We're obviously very well situated as a city with very good transportation that allows drugs to come in through California, Arizona, come up through Nevada, and then be dispersed to the East Coast and central areas. So these are just some different pictures of smuggling techniques, but they're very sophisticated organizations. They use everything from submarines in the Caribbean, which is in the top left here. The laser pointer's not working. The top left, to very unsophisticated methods of taping them to people's bodies to walk across the border. But really, in terms of Las Vegas, obviously, the mafia in the beginnings of their activity in Las Vegas, we've kind of seen that wane, but it's also created an opportunity for these other different types of groups, whether it's Balkan, Asian, or even Mexican, South American-based groups, to fill that void. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Sarah? So the question is, why is there such a prevalence of fentanyl that we're seeing in society, whether it's in pills being used as a cutting agent for other drugs? Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. If you look at heroin, fentanyl is 100 times stronger than heroin, which means for a lot less you can make a lot more drugs. But then what's even more concerning is the other derivatives, such as carfentanil, which is now 100 times more stronger than actual fentanyl. So we increase they essentially want to make money. in terms of, the actual dosage size, a fatal dose of fentanyl can be in the micrograms. So they use these as cutting agents to make the high for the end user stronger. But as I had mentioned before, a lot of times, like, these aren't made by chemists or pharmacists. They're mixed together and they make bad batches that cause overdoses.
Considering the awesome cyber capabilities of the federal government, why doesn't the U.S. government take down the darknet?
So that's a good question. So we call it the dark net because it sits multiple levels down in the internet. So you have your general internet like Google. Then you go into like your second level of the internet, which is like if you're logging into your bank accounts and things like that, it's a sublayer. The darknet it doesn't sit at the bottom necessarily, but it takes a more sophisticated user with specialized software to access that. The dark web is not just used for drug trafficking and nefarious activities. It's also used by political dissidents as a means to communicate. And so there are very much so legitimate purposes for using it, but it is exploited by these groups. The easiest answer is, I just don't know. We have to balance the targeting the criminal groups that are using them versus also being mindful that there are legitimate purposes for people to use it as well. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's a conundrum for me.
I have two questions. One is, what are you guys doing about all the drugs that's coming lately? The cartels are bringing here to the United States.
We're doing quite a bit. So my group, I work regularly with DEA, as well as all the local agencies here within the Valley. Have very strong partnerships with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, North Las Vegas, Henderson. So it's one of those problems that the FBI can't address alone. DEA can't address alone. So we really take a proactive approach and pull all of our resources to address those.
So do you think eventually it'll be
Gone?
gone?
Unfortunately, no.
Not really.
I would actually like to be unemployed in that area, but unfortunately, no. It's so pervasive, and there's still people within the population that use these drugs. So if there's a market, they will do whatever they can to bring drugs to that market.
Yeah, and I think that has something to do with all the crime we're having here in Las Vegas. Because I had to deal with the mafia people because I had 6 shops in 6 different hotels in 4 years. I had to deal with them, and they were straightforward, and we really had no crime. We never used to close our door. We never lock our doors. And now you have to have alarms and alarm system and cameras and all that. So is that going to also go away eventually, or just at least we can have less?
I would really like it to, yes. And as well as law enforcement as a whole, like I can honestly say everybody wants to address that problem. Especially, we live here, our kids go to school here, our families are here. So it's a significant problem.
Thank you, Benjamin. Chris Rodenfels here. Do you think if we actually struck out of the cartels in Mexico, that it would make a difference? And if you do believe it would make a difference, do you think it will ever happen?
I don't have a good answer for that. I kind of go by the opinion that wherever there's a vacuum, other groups would try to take their place. I think yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of split on whether or not that would create any, maybe for a short time. I think other groups would fill that void.
Oh, thank you.
That's a personal observation, that's not an official.
Thank you, Agent Inman, for being here today and what you do. Of all the threats in cyberspace, they seem to involve a lot of very sophisticated technologies. I don't know how many of them are internal to the Bureau. Do you have ongoing formal kind of relationships with industry that maybe has pockets of individual expertise to deal with some of the cybercrime and technology attacks?
Yes, I specifically focus on the organized crime angle, but we have an entire group that just does cyber-enabled crime. So the much more sophisticated hacking, business email compromise, things like that. And they regularly engage with industry and have established partnerships with us.
Hi, I was just wondering, how long would you say it's been since organized crime has been involved in the traditional sense of in the casino world, like we had traditionally seen in the history of Vegas? What was the catalyst that caused that to move on and to go into other angles other than just being involved in the hotel building and the scams involved in Vegas?
Let me understand the question correctly. So when, like, yeah. But I think to where it was extremely entrenched, I think it's probably 60s, 70s, and sort of waned in the 80s, from my opinion. But any organized crime group sees an opportunity within a casino to launder their money. So I still think that they're used, but there's also money laundering opportunities through legitimate businesses, including casinos. Anywhere that there's a business model that is heavy in cash, of course, has that opportunity. But then with the advent of technology and cryptocurrency, you don't even need to go into a brick and mortar establishment to launder your money. You can do that through peer-to-peer exchanges of cryptocurrency.
So I saw the pictures of a lot of assault style weapons and even one Tommy gun, it looked like it was up there. And maybe it's because I'm naive and I don't know what really happens out in the real world, but do they actually, do they fire them like Hollywood makes me think that they fire them, or they just use them to scare other people? Is it, again, you think of Chicago in the old days and they're driving up and they're blasting, the whole, is that happening again, or are we not seeing it?
It's, definitely south of the border, you see those type of activities. Within the United States, it's increasingly rare. I can't recall one specific, if there was, maybe a gang nexus or something like that, but the traditional organized crime groups within the United States specifically try to avoid being known to law enforcement. And the easiest way to be known to law enforcement is to publicly shoot at people.
We have one last question.
One last question. And thank you for speaking today. I'm just wondering, living here, what would you estimate the population of organized crime people living here? And then secondly, how are they likely to interact with us other than, fishy emails and that kind of stuff?
First part of your question, I don't know. Just the sheer number of groups that could possibly be operating as criminal enterprises. Not to say that it's prevalent. Every third person in Las Vegas is a member of organized crime. Vegas is obviously a transient city, so what I see quite frequently is a lot of groups come into Las Vegas and then leave. There are some groups that operate within Southern Nevada. I don't have a good answer on that. I think from a business perspective, obviously from the cyber angle, do your due diligence with, don't click on suspicious email links, which could expose you to business email compromises. Know your customer. Because a lot of these groups, if they're trafficking drugs, they want to launder their proceeds and they're willing to use legitimate businesses to disguise those. It doesn't necessarily mean that that business is a part of that organized crime group. They are being exploited for those purposes. So really know your own customer.
Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. I have for you a Soul Power Award, which represents a pair of shoes to a needy child in your name. So thank you very much. Thanks, Jim. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned. We'll see you next week. There's a meeting of the board in the Vintage Room immediately following this meeting. Thank you.